Afternoons on FNR Football Nation Radio. For the final time afternoons on FNR Football Nation Radio, our 190th afternoons on FNR Football Nation Radio. Big show in store as always. Of course, we've got a full wrap of the week that has been in Europe, including 4 big quarterfinals in the UEFA Europa League this morning. Some interesting results, lots of goals and lots of drama to get to there. A full recap, of course, of what took place in the Champions League as well, heading into next week's return legs, and a full complement of weekend action across the top 5 European competitions. Plenty of action to get through, and as always, if you would like to chat with us, do so via Twitter at FNR_radio. The phone line is
a little bit packed up at the moment.
But at FNR_radio, do tune in via Facebook Live. Of course, we're running end-to-end today on Facebook Live as a special to close. Plenty to get through, as I said. And as always, Adriano, Monte and Rick D'Andrea, your co-hosts here for the program. Rick, a big show in store.
Our last, it is. A huge one, as always.
We're going to with a bang because there is plenty to discuss. And there were those big matches overnight, and we'll discuss the show and everything else later on down the track. A recap of the overnight action because some intriguing results, and these 4 ties delicately poised heading into the return next week.
And you can't really say that any of them have been locked away, ready to go for the semi-finals. Good afternoon to you again, and good afternoon to everybody out there in FNR. Arsenal will take a 2-goal lead into their second leg of the Europa League quarter-final after defeating Napoli, of course, by that scoreline at the Emirates. First half goals from Aaron Ramsey and an own goal have actually put the Gunners in prime position to advance. João Félix has become the youngest player since Sergio Aguero, get this, to score a hat-trick in the competition as he led Benfica to a 4-2 over Eintracht. This is despite the German Eagles being down to 10 men for 70 minutes, and they will count themselves alive in the tie after Luka Jovic and Gonzalo Pacienza both found the back of the net. And speaking of leaving it very late, Daniel Vaz and Gonzalo Huerdes both scored deep into injury time to ensure Valencia will take a 3-1 lead into their second leg against La Liga rivals Villarreal. Dani Parejo may have missed a penalty after only 6 minutes, but Guedes was on hand with the follow-up before Santi Cazorla levelled up proceedings with a converted spot kick. A late Marcos Alonso goal with minutes to spare has given Chelsea a 1-0 away win over Slavia Prague in the other result going in the Europa League. In other news that is floating around, Adrian, Atletico Madrid striker Diego Costa will not feature in any more La Liga matches this season. Naughty, naughty boy, after being handed an 8-game suspension following his red card incident against Barcelona in the top-of-the-table clash last week. The Spain international was given 4 games due to his insults at referee G. Manzano and a further 4 for his grabbing of his arm. Costa has denied using a derogatory term towards the referee, and he is expected to appeal the decision in the coming days. And finally, some reprieving news, but some bad news at the same time for Tottenham, and they have confirmed that striker Harry Kane has suffered left ankle ligament damage, and midfielder Dele Alli has fractured his left hand during their Champions League victory over Manchester City earlier this week. Kane was forced off the field after his tackle on Fabian Delph, while Ali will have tests to see if he is available for Spurs' EPL clash against relegation-bound Huddersfield Town. Adrian, for the last time, over to you.
For the last time, nicely done, Rick. As always, a comprehensive wrap-up of all the news headlines and results from overnight, and some big injury news there at Tottenham, of course. Harry Kane, key to what is to come for Tottenham in the remainder of the campaign. That is a potential semi-final in the UEFA Champions League, and of course that top 4 assault in England. We'll discuss that as the show continues. Where to start, Rick? I guess the Europa League from overnight, because surprising results. Did we get any predictions correct overnight?
Well, yeah, we did. We got Valencia because we did say Valencia would win away from home.
We did.
We did say Chelsea would win.
We did predict goals in the Benfica.
We did predict goals in the Benfica clash, and I think we actually did say Arsenal should win, but it's away from home where the issues will be. So
let's start there. We said that away from home the issues will be for Arsenal. Sure. We also said for Napoli they needed that goal on the road.
Yes, and that didn't happen at all.
It didn't happen. Just 2 golden chances I can recall in the night for Napoli. I think one fell to Zielinski. But in the end for Napoli, no goal away from home, a 2-goal defeat in the first leg of a quarter-final tie. Serious advantage Arsenal with 2 goals in the first 25 minutes. Ramsey and then that Koulibaly own goal.
So the question is, as we've always done whenever Aaron Ramsey, the Welsh international, scores, who's going to drop off their perch? Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but
it's a myth.
It's a myth, but every single time he seems to score, somebody unfortunately seems to die. He only scored a couple of weeks ago, and we had a Brighton legend, unfortunately, John Napier. He passed away only 24 hours later. I hate to say it, but who's next?
But
who's next?
People pass away. People are born.
I know.
Every minute of every day.
It's just so coincidental that every time he happens to score, he, of course, someone seems to. But anyways, let's get back onto the serious side of things. With Ramsey, do you think maybe we know that he is going to be a Juventus player in the coming months? Do you think maybe Fabio Paratici, Pavel Nedved may have had a word to him prior to the game, as we saw with Frankie de Jong and Florentino Perez prior to Ajax Real Madrid? Do you think maybe something similar would have happened here? Maybe for a little bit of insight, even to help against the Serie A rival?
Could have. But I have no doubt whatsoever that Aaron Ramsey is well aware of the fierce rivalry, of course, between Juventus and Napoli. Taking a step back from that, I think Juventus have been a club, Roma were a club last season, that Italy have supported collectively. We saw last season when Roma made the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League that Napoli were one, Inter were others. Clubs were really vocal in their support, their public support for these clubs. So, yes, what you're saying may be the case. Obviously, Juve and Napoli, fierce rivals in that competition. But at the same time, I think Juve, similar with Napoli deep down, want the Italian clubs to do well. As well, I suppose the Italian resurgence in Europe continues, and this isn't a good look for Italian football that Napoli have gone and now are on the verge of elimination, with Arsenal on the verge of a semi-final berth.
No, you're right. But having said all that, I don't think Arsenal can, at the moment, count their stars that they are saying they are through to that semi-final.
No.
Because, yes, a 2-goal lead is a very strong lead to have, going into any form of semi-finals, quarter-finals, final, whatever, but it doesn't guarantee you a spot. And when we consider what Arsenal have done away from home this season, that's the bigger issue for me. And that's why, we might be saying Arsenal have this 2-goal lead, but it's not assured of a semi-final.
And we've seen it as well. We've seen other teams across the competition in Champions League, in this season, recent seasons, not take full advantage of that lead, and then it's fallen away. Most recently, of course, Atleti. Juve was the example in the round of 16.
Barca. Not Barca, sorry, my apologies. Manchester United, PSG, so I'm getting a little bit further ahead of myself here.
Could be the case with Barca soon.
Could be the case.
Man U, PSG, we've seen these results overturned. The Napoli certainly have the quality, and that combined with Arsenal's form on the road, but that nil, the nil there, the clean sheet is going to be key, I feel. And Arsenal, a very difficult team to prevent from scoring. We say that they aren't that great on the road, but still their winning form this season has been very solid. But, yes, in the last 2 rounds of this competition, they lost away from home. They lost to Bate, they lost to Rennes. Significantly against Rennes, though, they did score 1. Now, if they do score 1 away to Napoli need 4.
Then it's almost game over. But at this stage, we're not getting that far ahead of ourselves at the moment. Obviously, there's a few matches to go forward across both the international competitions and the domestic ones, so we'll get to that a little bit later on.
So, 2-0. That one has ended there. We've got that one correct in terms of who we thought would win, but very disappointing outcome for Napoli. Napoli, last one on them. If they do go out to this stage of the competition, so quarter-final exit in the Europa League, a narrow exit in the group stage of the Champions League, and of course, a second-place finish in the Italian top flight. Successful or unsuccessful first season for Carlo Ancelotti?
Well, when you compare, what did he do last season? You've got to think semi-finals, as you said, or as we know, second place, and I think they got through to a semi-final of the Coppa Italia. So slightly under what Sarri was able to achieve in his final season. Look, you'd give him a pass. Whether you'd start to put the stars on his name or next to his name, saying, you know what, you've done a great job, I don't know. But at this stage, well, you'd probably want him to at least match what happened last season. So I'd say it's probably, if I had to give Maurizio Sarri a B, maybe I'll give Ancelotti a B-.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be a little bit harsher on him.
Because he's a first season coach.
He hasn't taken Napoli to the next level. That's the difference. Or at least equaled, if not bettered, what happened last season.
I still do believe that they can get through this tie. They have the attacking quality in that return leg, but as always is the case, these second legs are intriguing. That first goal is so important. Arsenal scored the first goal, it's tie over.
Yeah.
If Napoli can get it, and particularly early on in the piece, all of a sudden Arsenal need to change their approach. And their issues already combined with their issues on the road, it could make for a telling second leg.
But the other thing that I think we need to briefly mention is this clean sheet. Arsenal rarely have gotten a clean sheet this season, let alone in Europe, in England. So all of a sudden, you've got to find there are some positives that do come out of it, and this is another one for Unai Emery. So let's see what can happen going forth, of course, over the next few weeks, and whether this is the start of something. Because they've been on a run of about, was it 2 of the last 3 of the last 4 games they haven't conceded a goal. So that is a positive for Unai Emery, considering that defence has been the big issue all season long.
Yeah, they are in some nice form, Arsenal. Of course, we will preview them in action in England later on in the programme. There were 3 other matches this morning, though, in the Europa League, and favourites Chelsea, 1 foot in the semis. 1-0 winners away to Slavia Prague. We got this one bang on. We said it wouldn't be easy. Slavia Prague gallant in defeat, and so unfortunate late on. They held out for 86 minutes, but Marcos Alonso popping up with the winner 4 minutes from time. I'm very sad that Slavia Prague have lost this game, if I'm being honest. 0-0 going to the second leg would have... Well, look, Chelsea's still in the box seat to go through with the result, but you just feel from here, with the away goal, with the win, the fact that Slavia Prague now need to go away from home and win and score multiple goals, it looks very unlikely.
It looks very unlikely at this stage. Maybe because, well, going to London is going to be very tough for any team, and especially here for the Czech side. So I don't think they're going to do anything. But the controversy about this match, it wasn't actually what happened on the field. The ugly scenes, unfortunately, happened prior to the match, where Chelsea fans were actually heard, and there were 3 fans actually stopped at the gates from entering the Slavia Prague stadium because they were chanting Islamophobic comments about Mohamed Salah. We've discussed racism at length, ad nauseum. We're not going to discuss it here today again, but let's just stop this racism stuff now. Full stop. End of discussion.
End of discussion, but a very long discussion that there is no end in sight, unfortunately, and certainly won't be resolved in the final... Well, our final minutes here on the program, but an ongoing issue certainly, and another example of it. Football does have a role to play in beginning the process of stamping it out, but it just goes to show that we're a long way from that. But Chelsea do get the results. They did rest Eden Hazard. He did come off the bench, but clearly an eye on the big match this weekend, of course, Chelsea and Liverpool.
And that we did anticipate. We did anticipate there was going to be a rotation of this team. I wouldn't say the second string, that's probably being a bit too harsh, but certainly the sort of the fringe players that Mauricio Sarri has used on a few occasions, or more likely in the Europa League rather than, of course, in the English Premier League.
They got their rest. They got the result. Now they play a significant fixture in terms of who will win the English Premier League title, but also for their top 4 claims. You just feel, though, that I feel that Napoli are the team that could beat them in a final. I couldn't see Arsenal beating them in a final. I just feel that the 11 of Chelsea in a final, neutral venue, I just feel that Chelsea would be the superior side. But anyway, a lot of ifs and buts there. But Chelsea get the win 1-0 against Slavia Prague, the return at Stamford Bridge in 7 days' time. John says Liverpool will beat Chelsea. We'll get to that shortly.
Soon.
Really excited about that match. But the other 2 matches in the Europa League this morning, Villarreal 1-3 home defeat to Valencia. Valencia will go through to the semi-final. This one I'm very confident about. Parejo missed another penalty. It's his second missed penalty in a matter of...
When will Marcelino, the Valencia coach, learn? Don't put him on there anymore.
Don't put him on there.
How many has he missed? You said it just...
Well, he missed one, I think, at the weekend. I think in the 2-0 loss to Vallecano.
I think all up, I think he's missed about 6. He's missed 3 or 4 up until the turn of the year, the calendar year, and he's missed a couple since
Fortunately, here, Gonzalo Guedes tapped it in off the rebound.
Luckily.
And then Santi Cazorla equalised from the penalty spot for Villarreal, made it 1-1 at the break. 2 goals in stoppage time, though, second half stoppage time, and Villarreal are, they're
all but
gone.
They're all but
Valencia
Villarreal
all but gone, unfortunately. 3 away goals, a 2-goal win. Very tough to see the relegation-threatened Villarreal side go to the Mestalla in a week's time and get the win. So Valencia in the all-Spanish affair, they will play the winner of Arsenal and Napoli. So at this point, Arsenal-Valencia semi-final looking very, very likely. On the other half of the draw, it is Chelsea with 1 foot in the semis, and Benfica 4-2 winners over Eintracht Frankfurt in the Eagles derby here. Big result. Frankfurt down to 10 men, though, within 20 minutes of play. Joao Felix with the penalty. He scored a hat-trick on the night, and repeat that stat very shortly, Rick. But his hat-trick has inspired Benfica to a big 4-2 win, although Frankfurt did get that second goal. Again, 4-1 down in 10 men late on, which does keep them alive.
It does.
But only just.
But you still have to give Eintracht Frankfurt that little bit of glimmer of hope, because Benfica on the road have been shaky. We know their record is very imperious at home, especially in the Europa League, but it's on the road that they've usually stumbled or faltered a little bit. So that's why those 2 goals, yes, down to 10 men for 70 minutes, as you said, Adrian, it just gives them that little bit of glimmer of hope that they can somehow get through to the Final Four in the Europa League.
Really, really exciting. Jovic, again, an important play for this side. Joao Felix.
He's the one who's going to get all the laudits and the attention.
Of course.
Now. We have to give him that, because he's the first, as I said at the top of the news there, he's the first player since Sergio Aguero, and the youngest since him, since the former Atletico Madrid man, to score a hat-trick in the Europa League / UEFA Cup. So it's a great stat there all of a sudden. He's also the youngest Portuguese player since Eusebio to score a hat-trick in the Europa League as well. So it just goes to show how much of an influence he is on this team. And you just have to wonder, he's only 19. He doesn't get spoken about in the same level as some other 19-year-olds that we've mentioned time and time again.
Of course.
He's just this
he's highly rated there, but globally probably not
as big. But you just watch out for him over the next, say, 24 months. If he can somehow take his game to another level, maybe somebody... I'm not saying it's going to happen this summer, but I'm certainly saying over the next 2 years, he could be, seriously, one that you start to build a team around over the next 5 to 10, if not 15 seasons.
Well, keep in mind, he already is strongly linked with big money moves to big clubs. There are some big players that could be on the move in the summer. It will be a very intriguing summer transfer period, and a lot of these stars here playing in the Europa League at the highest level will be linked away. Just look at those 8 clubs that remain. Arsenal, well, one of their goal scorers today is off. Ramsey will join Juventus. Napoli, one of their superstars, Lorenzo Insigne, linked with moves away. Atleti, particularly of late. Kalidou Koulibaly, their best defender, and arguably the best defender in world football on any given day, is linked away as well. Benfica, we've just said. Frankfurt, we've just said. Slavia Prague, there are a few gems in that squad coming through. Chelsea, well, Eden Hazard to Real is going to be the story of the summer. And Villarreal and Valencia as well. Well, two Spanish sides who have undergone incredible campaigns given where they start and where they're at the moment. So plenty of stories within the ranks of these respective squads. And still all to play for, though. Look, even though Villarreal, Valencia 1-3, probably the tie, if you had to pick one that was over, it's probably that's the one. Valencia with the big win on the road. But look, nothing is over till it's over. We've seen it in recent seasons. But at the moment, it does look likely that Arsenal, Benfica, Chelsea and Valencia will be the final 4 in this season's semi-finals of the Europa League. The winner to earn an automatic place in next season's UEFA Champions League. And we've seen that be of benefit to clubs in recent seasons who otherwise wouldn't have made that competition. So really excited about that. Rick, a quick recap on the week that's been in Europe in the Champions League, of course. Well, those ties there, still all to play for. Most recently, of course, Ajax and Juventus 1-1. Barcelona with a 1-0 at Old Trafford. I think United and Ajax as underdogs in those 2 ties certainly showed enough that they still have what it takes in that second leg, despite being away from home.
Agreed.
To take it right up to Juve and Barca.
Agreed. Like you've just said, it ain't over until the fat lady does sing. Maybe the older lady, if you're a Juventus supporter, you might want to be saying that. But yeah, absolutely. We saw with Ajax, they had a lot of chances to get past Juve, to score. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum yesterday and the day before. Barcelona and Manchester United, well, Man United didn't even have a shot on target, but they just kept peppering away, getting into those deep defensive positions, stretching this Barcelona defence on a few occasions. So that one there's most certainly is not over. And of course, if you mention the other 2 games, well, Liverpool, you might say, are probably the closer out of all the 8 teams to progressing through. clean sheet, 2-0 win. You've got that buffer as well. So, but even that, we know it's not locked, sealed, and delivered there.
Absolutely. Similarly to Arsenal in the Europa League, Liverpool have had their issues on the road at times. And, well, Porto's home form, sensational. 2-0. Unfortunate for Porto, they couldn't get that away goal. It does look very tough, but they are still alive. And what those early goals do in second legs of tie is always intriguing. But certainly looking forward to the reverse legs next week. The Juve, Ajax, Barca United will be Tuesday evening European time, Wednesday morning, local time here in Australia. And then Liverpool-Porto, Porto-Liverpool rather, and of course Manchester City hosting Tottenham to close out the quarterfinals. Then there will be four. And, well, again, the four favourites, Juve, City, Barca, Liverpool. Still, the other side's in with a chance, but you get those four in the semi-finals of this season. It's tough to predict a winner there. There'll be two incredible semi-finals.
Plenty of coin tosses we'll be having to do. Let's say it that way.
Well, that's why we love the competition, because if it's a potential Juve, Manchester City and Barca, Liverpool, as per the draw at that stage of the competition, quite incredible. John says bye-bye Porto, confident that Liverpool will be able to get past them. But, yeah, again, I'm not so sure if Porto can score early on, which they are capable of doing so. I'm not sure Porto will be able to hold out Liverpool for 90 minutes, but stranger things have happened. Matt's come through and said, come on, Napoli, it's not over, we can do it still. And
true,
that they can.
You have to have the belief.
That
absolutely.
They can. Napoli in the exact same position as Porto, needing to defend and overturn a 2-0 loss from the first leg in the return and win by multiple goals against fancied opponents there. John also says the Reds have to win all their games and hopefully City will drop points, but it's highly unlikely with regards to the Premier League, which we'll get to shortly. That battle, another intriguing battle this weekend because, well, for the first time in a little while, Liverpool with the tough game, City with the relatively easier game, City away to Palace, Liverpool host Chelsea. Again, this is the moment. City still will have played that one game less than Liverpool, but this is the moment now where if Liverpool drop points, you'd say it's over.
Push comes to shove, it's now or never. All of a sudden, I've said it a few times before, but the match day 34 curse does reign over Liverpool at this stage, and they happen to be playing that same team that Demba Ba and Steven Gerrard had their infamous incident. So let's see if Liverpool can overcome it, and that would make it for a very, very interesting last few match days.
Our good friend Louise just came through and said, super talent Joao Felix, where will Mendes send him to? Juve. And yes, Juve have been the club that have been strongly linked with his move, but for the money that's being reported, I would be baffled if Juve spend that money on this talent, given where else they will be investing this summer. We've heard reports for Juve to sign Varane. He won't come cheap from Real Madrid. We know that some other players could be on the way out, but with Ramsey coming in for free, but on big money, obviously still with Ronaldo on €30 million plus per season, do you fit in this young talent? And will he actually play, given, well, the other players you've already got that are well established in that area?
You don't want him to become another Renato Sanchez if we're going to do a like-for-like type comparison with the Portuguese players and, of course, making these big money moves. He had that great under-17, under-19 World Cup. It's one of the two, I can't remember exactly. Burst onto the scene, went, I think, already from Benfica straight across to Bayern Munich. I think they paid 40 or 45 million at the time. Big money nonetheless. João Felix has been touted to be on similar, maybe a little bit more. But what's happened to Sanchez's career? He's struggled to break into the Bavarian teams. He's almost fallen by the wayside. Maybe that's being a little bit too harsh. The only time he actually got some game time was because of all the injuries that happened at Bayern Munich, and then he was able to sort of slow and steadily start to make his way into the team. But now that they're all back, injury-free, he's sitting on the pine. You just don't want the same thing to happen here to João Felix.
Exactly. Tough to see where the perfect destination will be for him, but just somewhere where he's getting minutes at this stage of his promising career. Maybe it is Benfica at this point.
It wouldn't be the worst thing.
Well, Benfica will likely be playing Champions League football next season, given their form in the Primeira Liga, and, well, if they win the Europa League, that'll certainly confirm that.
Correct.
But, yeah, a promising future ahead, and, well, it's also very good for Portugal, who are looking for that next superstar with Ronaldo's days numbered, probably for the national team. You wouldn't anticipate he'd go beyond the 22 World Cup. Ricardo's come through and said maybe Umtiti.
So that's in relation to the Varane and some of the other...
Juve.
So, possibly, not ruling it out. Let's wait and see what does happen over the next few months.
Hello to Marcello, who's come through as well. And Matt, next season Napoli will be stronger and much better. Cudler will know now after his first season who's out and who's in.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's why earlier when I asked you that question, Do you say Carlo Ancelotti's first season in charge was a success? You have to understand that he's come in and taken over a side that, well, there have been some changes this season. They lost their long-term captain Marek Hamsik. They've had a few changes in and out of the side. They've had a few concerns on the injury front. They've brought Milik back into the fold. He's finding his feet at the San Paolo, and exciting times ahead for Ancelotti and Napoli heading into next season. But of course, with Milan, maybe Milan, but with Milan, Inter, Roma, Lazio will set to be a bit different next season. But with these clubs continually building, have Napoli missed the opportunity to dethrone Juventus? They've still got a chance, but I think that
they may have.
It was obviously that record-breaking season last season where they finished second with a record amount of points, which will be very, very tough to overcome. Ricardo says, we hope Napoli, but if Inter gets Conte, they will be the favourite. That is also true. A big, big story breaking in Italy over the last couple of weeks, but more concrete news emerging in recent days. Antonio Conte wants about €11 million per season, Rick, to do exactly that. Manage Inter Milan, which would be incredible. Obviously, Inter, the fierce rival of Juventus in the Italian top flight, and Conte on big money to Inter to potentially replace Luciano Spalletti. What would that mean for Inter and their title credentials?
Yeah, well, you'd almost be saying, okay, well, you give them an extra 20% chance compared to what you normally give them every year. That they always seem to show a lot of promise. They've bought all these brand new players. You just know, okay, you give them 6 to 8 match days, they'll settle in, and then all of a sudden they'll tear up the competition. But with Inter, we know come Christmas time, come the second half of the season, they've fallen off the wayside. So what it'll mean is it'll mean that you'll have a lot more of a consistency, or hopefully you'll have a lot more of a consistency from your coaching front, from your tactical front. You'll have an 11 that's going to be fairly similar, maybe with a couple of players changing a little bit, maybe a couple of rotations, a couple of substitutions, but beyond that, you're going to have, say, the same 16 players in, week out.
Really exciting times ahead, but it is now time to look ahead to the more short-term future. This weekend, what is to come? We've covered the European football in depth over the course of the entirety of the season. The last word, a tip for both now, before we move on to what's to come this weekend. Sure. Tip for the Champions League, a tip for the Europa League, and then, well, you might as well give me a Super Cup winner as well if you're going to do those two.
All right, so I'm still going to stick with Chelsea in the Europa League. I've stuck with them from day dot.
You have.
I'm going to stick with them all the way through. I'm going to put 2 hats on for the Champions League. I'm going to put my Juventus supporters hat on.
Give me the professional.
So that's that one, as we all know.
Give me the professional.
I reckon the professional one, I still can't see anyone getting past Barcelona. I really can't. And that defence, if that gets sorted out, hopefully it should.
Yep.
And with Messi up top, even if he doesn't fire, he can always do that little bit of magic, whether he assists or whether he starts the play. I think he's just going to be too crucial for my liking. So Barcelona as a professional, Juve as a supporter. Yours?
Understood. Mine.
You've gone Napoli all along for a long time.
Europa League, Napoli has been my tip for a very long time. In fact, since they joined the competition from the Champions League. I think they're a Champions League quarterfinalist quality calibre side.
Yep.
I think that they, under Carlo Ancelotti, are best placed to win. However, after this morning, it looks unlikelier. But I will stick with them. I think if they can overcome Arsenal, they will win the competition. But Chelsea, for me, will be the strongest of the remaining 4 if Napoli aren't there. So I'll stick with Napoli for now. The Champions League. I said at the start of the campaign there are 2 sides and 2 sides only who could win it, and I remember that some of the feedback we received was quite negative towards that comment.
That's right, yes.
But I did say at the start of the season that I felt Juventus and Barcelona realistically were the only 2 clubs that could go the distance, and I am predicting that it will be a Juventus-Barcelona final, and I was still fairly confident that would be the case in the round of 16, even when Juve went behind in that first leg against Atleti. Obviously wasn't aware that the draw would work out in my favour. Juve can't meet Barcelona until the final, of course, but I feel it will be a Juve-Barcelona final, and I do feel that Juventus will actually come out on top. The script is set. This was the case at the start of the season. Ronaldo returns to Madrid, wins the Champions League. Ronaldo-Messi meet in another significant fixture. I do feel that Juventus will finally end that drought and defeat Barcelona in this season's UEFA Champions League final. So, if my tips are right, potentially it could be a Juve-Napoli Super Cup for the start of next season, and Napoli will probably end up winning that thing, but probably it's obviously insignificant in comparison to what's at stake in Madrid on the 1st of June. But incredible period of football to come. What are we? 4 or 5 weeks to go until the end of the domestic seasons. A lot of football for these top clubs to be played, and then the Europa League final in Baku and the Champions League final at the Wanda Metropolitano in Madrid. All on that, plenty more to come on that. We'll, of course, via the platform here, have you covered with all the up-to-date news and analysis via our social platforms, so do stay tuned to @FNR_radio, our Facebook page, and more. We'll have more on that as the months continue. But now looking ahead to the weekend, Rick, the action is back domestically across all competitions and a full round of English Premier League, which I am looking forward to because, of course, last weekend, not the case. FA Cup, there were the semi-finals there. Some teams didn't play. Tottenham haven't played a league game, well, for a little while. There'll be a couple of weeks between matches there. Tottenham are in action against Huddersfield, and I'd like to start with them. They're not the biggest game of the weekend, but an intriguing story because of that big breaking news to Harry Kane. Am I right in saying he may not play again?
Correct. He may not play for the season. Obviously, the medicos will take this and take a very, very cautious approach over the next few weeks. I guarantee that he won't be playing next week against Manchester City in the return leg.
Big blow.
Big blow. Will he be back, even say for the UEFA Nations League? Well, I'm not even guaranteeing that at the moment.
Big blow for England.
If there is no timeline officially set, this is going to be fairly serious. And as we were discussing earlier in the week, we know that Kane has had a lot of ankle issues.
4 or 5 in the last 3 years.
This is going to be taken very, very seriously. He may actually be back. Maybe August. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and it does make sense why it is incredible how young Kane is. Kane's still,
25, 26. He's very young.
There is no point in rushing back. However, if he was close to being fit, there is plenty of point in rushing back.
Oh, of course.
Not to re-aggravate this ankle, which he's just re-aggravated. That is a serious cause for concern for both Tottenham and England. And also, think about this as well for Harry Kane. He's been one of the 3 stars linked away. He's not moving anywhere.
Nope. Absolutely no chance.
No Real Madrid are coming to pay top dollar for this player if he's not fully fit. Correct. So he will remain at Tottenham next season, no doubt about that, and he may not even feature again until next season in any competition. So Harry Kane and Tottenham, the pressure is on. They've moved into their new stadium. 2 wins from 2, no goals conceded, bottom place Huddersfield, already relegated Huddersfield, coming to town this weekend. The absence of Harry Kane is a bigger issue because it's one less body that they can rest this weekend ahead of that return against City at the Etihad next week. Not a danger game at all. They will come and they will win this game, but I'm more concerned about what's to come for them in their preparation for that return in the Champions League, which, well, with top 4 still up in the air, with the Champions League title unlikely, even if they do make a semi-final, I can't see them getting past a Juventus and then a Barca or a Liverpool in a final. Where are they at, and what should, if anything, they prioritise?
Well, I think at the same time, this week's going to determine their season in a lot of respects. If they get through to a semi-final, well, then you have to say, okay, well, we need to turn our attention a little bit to it. We need to actually put it, not as the priority, but a priority. It almost becomes a season objective. It's one of those things that you write on the board in July when you usually walk into your first training session. And you say, okay, what are we going to do? What's our aim this season? I don't think Tottenham in their wildest dreams would have anticipated making a semi-final of the Champions League. So now this will have to become a priority. Yes, as you've said, the top 4 must. It's the only way that Tottenham will start to recoup a lot of the money that they spent on that stadium. And due to the fact that they spent no money over both transfer windows, they will need to invest some over the coming 3 months when it reopens on June 1.
And that new stadium needs Champions League football next season, because without Champions League football, obviously they've spent a lot of money, but they need to now invest in players. And, well, what player can they lure without the lure of Champions League football? I get the feeling that he has been linked to Liverpool, but I get the feeling that Gareth Bale will become a very real possibility for Tottenham next season, with or without Champions League football. But that's obviously because of the link previously. With exception to Bale, I can't see too many top-class players who will want to make a move to Tottenham without UEFA Champions League.
The problem with, or it's not really a problem, the good thing with Tottenham and their chairman Daniel Levy is he's always scouted incredibly well, and he's picked up players not very expensively.
That's true.
But the other problem, conversely, is when Tottenham somehow do like a certain player and the media then get a hold of this, then you start to see, okay, he's also linked with going to this club and that club and that club, And then all of a sudden Tottenham miss out because the lures of the other teams usually are bigger, mightier and better than what Spurs have generally done. Now with this new stadium, we keep on harping on about it, but now with this stadium, the lure of Champions League football, will things start to change a little bit? That's going to be the interesting thing over the next, say, 24 to 36 months for Spurs, and how viable they are going to be and how fast they repay this stadium back, and the lure and some of these players coming through.
A big match, Tottenham, Huddersfield.
Quickly, let's get back to this game, though.
Get back to the game.
Son Heung-min's going to be the one who's going to line up as the number 9. He's the only one who's left.
But again, no doubt, but wouldn't it have been great to be able to not play him and
is.
play Llorente? Well,
Lorente's also injured. He picked up that knock, of course,
that's what I'm saying.
midweek.
They don't have to be near full strength for this game, and they'll win the game because they desperate. This match is equally as important as the second leg against City next week. That's how. Yeah. That's where they're at.
It's
the
just
moment.
become that, hasn't it?
No, it's become that because they're fourth, 1 point clear of fifth Arsenal, and a couple points behind third Chelsea. This is an absolute must-win for Tottenham, so they have to treat it seriously. And Huddersfield have nothing to play for, but that's dangerous. That is dangerous, and Tottenham need to be at full strength in order to get them the 3 points, and they will. They will get the win. And then they will look to next week. But this busy schedule home for Tottenham, I'm a little concerned that they will come out the other end with nothing bar a place in next season's Europa League.
Yep. It can be a very distinct possibility.
All right, let's get to the match of the weekend in England and maybe in Europe as well. It's Liverpool and Chelsea. Of course, Liverpool still top of the pile in the English Premier League. They have played that extra game than Manchester City. 5 games remain for Liverpool, 6 for City. Liverpool have a 2-point advantage. But they take on Chelsea this weekend. Their final big test domestically for the season. Liverpool-Chelsea, it's at Anfield. Chelsea have been woeful on the road. They lost 6-0 to City not so long ago. They've had some poor performances. Bournemouth took care of them 4-0. It will be tough. It will be tough for both teams here, but Liverpool surely come in as favourites with the title effectively on the line.
Liverpool have to win every game. There's no ifs, there's no buts, there's no maybes. This is the only approach that Jurgen Klopp can have. And this one here could be their biggest test of the remaining games. It won't matter what has happened in the remainder of them or what's about to happen in the next 4 or 5 that they've got left. Get past Chelsea. You'd almost maybe start to write a few extra letters on that title. You almost would. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's my gut feeling at this stage. At Liverpool, the Etch-a-Sketcher type person, whoever it is, the embroider, might actually start to put the I as well as the L already on the English.
Despite the game in hand?
Despite the game in hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did you know this? I didn't until about 30 seconds ago, but Liverpool have not beaten Chelsea in the Premier League at home since 2012, and in fact they haven't beaten Chelsea at Anfield in their last 8 meetings.
Yeah, I did. But that's why I think destiny might change all of a sudden, and things might actually go in their favour all of a sudden if you're a Red supporter. 3
wins for Chelsea, 5 draws, and 0 wins for Liverpool in the last 8 meetings across the Premier League and League Cup at Anfield.
Says it all.
Says it all. That is a little alarming for me, Rick. It is a little alarming, and I think that this could be a tough test. Chelsea will be buoyant after their win in Prague.
But you've got to give that extra 48 hours difference.
Yes. At the same time, though, as well, Chelsea's top 4 hopes are on the line as well. So this is equally as important for Chelsea. And they, similarly to Tottenham and Arsenal and United, desperately need Champions League football next season. I actually think this will end all square and it will end Liverpool's title hopes because then, well, City, of course... City actually play a couple of hours before Liverpool-Chelsea. So Liverpool will know the City result as they kick off. They will know. Well, it'll be more
or less now.
More or less then as they kick off. They'll know, and I feel that failure to win will end their hopes.
When we discuss the City Palace game, because that's who
take
exactly
me there now, Rick. It's 2 hours before.
Well, we know what happened last time in December.
We do know
3-2.
So City will be hungry to make amends.
They'll be hungry to make amends, but I think City also have to have a stronger one eye on that return leg in the Champions League than Tottenham do.
Rick, how often does City lose 2 games in a row?
Well, it's happened earlier in the season. It happened during that Christmas time. They lost 3 out of 4.
How often does that happen?
Yeah,
Rick?
I know. Beyond that, I don't think it's happened at all this season, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
So, yeah, I know it was an anomaly. I know that every good team needs to have a period where they sort of hit a crest and then come down a little bit before obviously picking themselves up. But it did happen, And it could happen again. I'm not saying it will happen,
Yeah.
but it could happen again. It is a possibility.
Palace have beaten City once at home in 2015 in the Premier League, but with exception to that, City have won every game with exception to last season, ended 0-0 in the corresponding fixture. But I think City, they weren't at full strength in the Champions League from the get-go,
No.
so their players will be ready. Guardiola, he's a wise man. We don't need to prove that. We don't need to sell that 20 on. But they'll win this game. There's no doubt about that. And they'll be very hopeful that moments later Liverpool will be held by Chelsea, and that will be that. But regardless, the title is in City's hands at the moment, because if they win their 6 games, it's all over. Nothing Liverpool can do.
No, that's the other thing. But to win 6 games, we know with what is going on, it's very, very tough. That's why I think Liverpool just might have that little bit of edge. It's only a 1% edge, but it's enough for me at the moment to start saying and sprouting that I think Liverpool will win the title.
City's run home, they're in the box seat to win the title.
They have the easier run compared to Liverpool, absolutely.
Palace away, then 2 games against Tottenham in the space of 3 days. Obviously, one is the Champions League, but Tottenham, and then the Manchester derby at Old Trafford, and then Burnley, Leicester, Brighton. Where do City drop points? For me, it's the United clash, because the derby, anything can happen.
That's the one.
But where do they drop points?
That's the one. I don't think they'll drop points in the Premier League against Tottenham.
I don't think so. Not at home.
Not at home anyway, but that'll be a different story in the Champions League, where I think Tottenham actually might go through. But another story nonetheless.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be that Manchester derby. And I don't know if you're a Manchester United supporter.
Exactly.
Do you want to
hand Liverpool the title?
Do you want to hand Liverpool the title, or do you want to help your Mancunian friends, or your Mancunian crosstown rivals?
Also, United need to win to make the top 4. But do you really want to hand Liverpool the title? And that will be a factor. But look, I think in the end, City will go in as clear favourites in all these fixtures, and particularly that run home, Burnley, Leicester, Brighton. Look, Liverpool drop points against Chelsea, it's over.
Yep.
It's all over. City will win the title. But if they can get the 3 points, it just puts the pressure on City for that massive double header in the space of 5 days. Tottenham and United, there will be a little bit of pressure, but still, City, it's theirs to lose at the moment, given the current situation. So, big weekend, City away to Palace. That's at Selhurst Park.
Yes.
And Chelsea will take on, of course, Liverpool at Anfield. Cannot wait for that. The other key fixture in the race there for the top 4, of course, features Arsenal. They're away to Watford. Now, this will be tricky. Watford into an FA Cup final. Watford playing really good football and pushing for Europe themselves. Tough match for Arsenal here with that trip to Napoli to come.
Yeah, the only thing that does go in favour of Arsenal compared to, say, Chelsea is that obviously the Gunners played in London,
of course,
this morning.
Yep.
So they don't have that travel factor to consider as well.
And an extra 24-hour break as well.
And an extra 24-hour break. So that is something that does come into play when we have to discuss Arsenal and Watford. Arsenal, first and foremost, can they keep up this clean sheet run that has seen them get back into, of course, the top 4 and now be a strong chance to make, of course, the Champions League. That's the first thing as well. Secondly, Watford, yes, can they keep their confidence going from making, of course, the FA Cup final? That's going to be the other question. We've seen time and time again some of these teams just drop off a little bit, start to plan a little bit for that cup, but I don't think the Hornets can do that at this stage. They really can't. Yeah, you touched on making maybe a Europa League as an outsider and getting into the qualifying group stage, but the Hornets need to win this as well. So they've got so much to play for still, and let's see if they can keep that confidence going through.
That they do. I think this will be tough for Arsenal though. How do you juggle both? They haven't been good on the road as it is. So I feel that in the end, as I have a sip of my Julius Minor coffee, Rick. I think in the end this will be. I don't think it'll be straightforward.
No.
I think both teams will get on the score sheet, and I do feel that it could be. Well, this could be a decisive fixture for both clubs in their respective races for European football. One for the Champions League, one for the Europa League. So looking forward to Watford up against Arsenal. Watford have slipped to 10th.
They have.
Everton, Wolves, Leicester, Watford, all in the running for that last Europa League place. Unless Watford win the FA Cup.
Correct.
In which case, forget about them all.
Correct. So, little bit of an interesting, month and a half left to go.
It is. It really is. And also interesting, still down the bottom end of the table, this weekend we will learn potentially who that third relegated team are, because we know that Huddersfield and Fulham are already relegated. Cardiff on the verge of joining them. Failure to defeat Burnley this weekend, they're gone.
Yep.
They are gone.
No, I'll go with that one with you too, because unfortunately, the South Welsh team just have not not just been up to EPL standard at all this season. We've talked about the other two in particular, but Cardiff have been that third team that we have put into that bracket of being relegated.
Well, many at the start of the season, if you can recall pre-season predictions, Cardiff were the one that all were saying they're gone before anyone, and they've done very well to survive still to this point. But yes, it's Burnley, I feel, are safe now. They've overcome their longest season in all history, given where they started the Europa League quite incredibly. But Cardiff here lose. Obviously, Southampton and Brighton will be able to breathe a little easier. That will be that. And Cardiff, Fulham and Huddersfield will be playing in the English Championship next season. Other matches this weekend, Rick. Leicester and Newcastle is the opening match. That one starts tomorrow morning. So get your fantasy Premier League teams done if you haven't already, because Leicester Newcastle first up tomorrow morning. Brighton and Bournemouth. Burnley Cardiff, as we said. Fulham and Everton. Any hope for Fulham to finally get a win? I think they could lose every game for the remainder of the season.
They could, but now that the monkey's off the back and they know their fate, could they actually start to turn up and play a better football?
No. Everton have won their last three against Arsenal, West Ham and Chelsea.
I've got to give some sort of hope here.
No. Everton have won their last three without conceding a goal, and they're back in that European mix now. Everton want a Europa League spot next season, and Everton going to Fulham, who have nothing to play for. Everton will just. But
this is the most dangerous time for some of these teams that are going to be taking up against Fulham, a team that know their fate. That's why.
Well, exactly right, and that's what I said about Huddersfield. They're relegated. It's a danger game for Tottenham. If they're off guard at all, Huddersfield have nothing to play for. They're relegated. Correct. Sometimes surprise results come about, so we will see. Southampton and Wolves will be a great watch, and the two big ones with City and Liverpool in action. And the final match, also in the top four battle, United-West Ham. United have slipped to sixth. I'm starting to lose hope that they, with the match against City to come and a few other tricky matches, I'm starting to lose hope for their top four aspirations and feel the only way they're going to make the Champions League next season is by winning the Champions League.
Beat Barca and you're there.
Beat Barca and you're into a semi-final against possibly Liverpool, and then take care of Juve City or Ajax or Tottenham or whoever in the final. I'm losing hope for them here, and they take on a West Ham side who, they're stuck in that mid-table log where there's not much going on, but yeah, a big match. They simply must win, but then they've got that trip to Barcelona to come.
Yeah, so I don't know what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to do. He rotated a few players, of course, on the weekend. Not on the week, midweek. He obviously had a few players that were suspended for that clash against Barcelona in the first league. He'll need to get a few of them back to see if they can somehow get through and progress.
They will win, but I don't think I'll tip them to win.
Well, you have to.
Will win, but I don't think that they will. I don't think they'll finish in the top four come season's end, which isn't good news for United fans. But that's where we're at the moment. United just have been. They had that resurgence, and then now, they're still sixth. They're where they started, and they're currently 3 points adrift of Tottenham, and with not long to play in the season, with 6 games to spare, they've got a lot of work to do, particularly as goal difference is not in their favour over Chelsea or Tottenham, and they're narrowly behind Arsenal. So an additional point on top of the points already there, a long end to the season coming up for Solskjaer and United. And then, what of course that means quickly, do their stars stay, Rick, or do their stars go? And when I say stars, I really mean star in Paul Pogba. They don't make the top four. Pogba leaves for me. And I think he leaves regardless. The rumours and reports linking Pogba to Real Madrid continue. We know that there are a few players, particularly in an attacking sense, who were potentially on the way out, who won't leave. I feel they'll be looking to reinforce in midfield. I'm not sure if you saw Casemiro overnight speak about Paul Pogba, but he came out and said that we'd welcome him with open arms here at Manchester United. We'd love to have him here.
As you would at Real Madrid.
At Real Madrid, so not Manchester United.
It'd be very, very handy if you were Casemiro, the Brazilian, to play with. Absolutely.
Casemiro, he'll stay. Modric and Kroos, who knows? Who knows? But I do feel Paul Pogba with Zidane, with Eden Hazard, who will certainly arrive there next season. I feel that we could see a couple of current Premier League superstars at the Bernabeu next season.
Let's wait and see. I like saying that, but
we could potentially see next season, honestly, 3 of the best 5-ish players in the Premier League at Real next season.
We really could, you're right.
Eden Hazard, Chelsea have said he's £100 million. Real Madrid have said, no thanks. Force your way out, Eden, and then we'll do a deal. So they'll get him, probably for close to 100. Obviously Paul Pogba, as we've said, and Sadio Mane from Liverpool, who, based on 2019 form, is the best player in England. So those 3 players could potentially be at Real Madrid under Zinedine Zidane next season. There could be some change.
We'll have to. I hate saying it, but we'll have to wait and see.
Which is the most likely, Hazard?
Hazard's a likely one for me. I'm almost.
We don't have to wait and see.
I'm almost prepared to put 100% on that one and say that one is locked, signed, sealed, and delivered for me.
All right, that's the English Premier League done. At the start of the season, Rick was certain Liverpool would win.
Yep.
I've been big on City all season, and that's where we're going to close. I'm sticking with City, and you're still sticking with Liverpool, quite evidently. You said the L and the I are on the trophy.
Yep. I'm not going to change my decision, and you're not going to change yours either.
We're not going to, but City, for me, will win the title. I can't see them dropping another game. Whether or not they make the semis of the Champions League,
that's another story.
Altogether. Over to the Italian Serie A, Rick, another big weekend as Juventus can finally win a record-breaking 8th straight Italian championship in the opening game of the round. So obviously the Italian Federation here giving Juve that extra day to prepare for their upcoming Champions League return leg in the second of the the quarterfinal rather, to make the semi against Ajax away to Spal. Now, a point required to win the Scudetto. 1 point will do. They will win the Scudetto at Spal. They clearly won't receive the trophy at Spal and celebrate there, but they will be crowned champions with a point at Spal. Surely they want to do it on their own terms and win and do it in style.
You'd think they'd want to do it in style. You're right. But with Ajax only, 4 days away, this is not a lock, stock and barrel 3-point result coming up for me. I still go back to the Empoli game a couple of weeks ago, and that was only a 1-0. Yes, at the Allianz, so at home. But I think this has got a little bit of a similar sort of feel to it as well. Spal, I wouldn't say locked into a relegation battle, but down towards the bottom of the table.
They're 4 points clear of the bottom three.
As we know, they are not certainties to stay up. I think this one here actually has draw written all over it to me at this stage. And so with that point, yes, it will be enough. No, it won't be the celebratory way that Juventus want to win the Scudetto. But I think at the moment, part 1 is to get this Scudetto. Part 2 is to focus on the UEFA Champions League second leg.
0-0 in the corresponding fixture last season.
Yeah.
0-0 at Spal last season. And, yes, also latter stages of the campaign. It was the 29th match day. This is the 32nd. I think Juve will win this one, though. And I recall the match away to Cagliari before the Milan and then the Ajax clash where... Well, it was a similar feel. It was, you're going to Cagliari, a side where the result doesn't really mean much. Moise Kean, of course, it was that game where there were a few incidents there. Kean popped up with the second goal. Bonucci scored as well. I just think that they'll be clinical and get this done. Giorgio Chiellini, unlikely to feature, of course, with that injury, still set to rule him out.
Blaise Matuidi as well will be touch and go as well.
So there will be a few changes. Emre Can's still out, so maybe a different look midfield, but the Juve depth is the difference for them this season. We'll see Mattia Di Sciglio come into the lineup for Cancelo. We'll see Spinazzola come into the lineup.
For Sandro,
these players are at a very, very high level at the moment. And, another opportunity perhaps for Bonucci and Rugani to really consolidate that partnership. I think that they will need to fire on all fronts here. Ronaldo will very likely play because keep in mind that while it's not important for him to play, the midweek game was his return match, so I feel he will certainly play.
What about Douglas Costa?
Costa will start, in my opinion. I feel Dybala will start. I think that they will play Ronaldo, Dybala and Douglas Costa, which is the attacking trio that started the season, as a nice way for the three of them to work back to,
some sort of fitness.
Full levels of fitness, cohesion, synergy, whatever you want to say. It's a massive opportunity, and with that in mind, I feel, and Moise Kean, of course, the other one who will certainly play a part. I would be surprised if he started over those three, but it depends on what he wants to do with Ronaldo. I feel that Juventus will win in style and celebrate the Scudetto in style. Then we'll start to see maybe points being dropped once it's all said and done. But you are right in saying that a point will be enough. So maybe a bit of a danger game, but I'm going to tip Juve to win and probably win just comfortably. Nothing too outrageous.
I'll go either a 0-0 or a 1-1 in my eyes.
Okay, you're
go
saying
with the draw.
All right. I'll chat to you Saturday night, Rick, because I think that Juve will win 0 this match here against Spal. However, Spal did win their last 2 home games against Lazio and Roma. So could they make it 3 from 3 against 3 of the biggest boys in the country would be remarkable.
We'll have to wait and see.
We will. Napoli away to Chievo. Napoli have nothing to play for.
How
Chievo
many
are relegated? How many?
How many?
You think so?
Yeah.
So you think Napoli respond in the lead-up?
Oh, yeah. I think this is going to be on for young and for old, and I think that front three that Carlo Ancelotti will deploy will absolutely tear apart the Flying Donkey.
That is interesting because they have nothing to play for, Rick. Nothing.
No,
they need to be fully fit for Arsenal, and they need how many against Arsenal in a week's time?
So I think that's why that process, that mentality needs to commence here against the team that is holding up the ladder in the Serie A, and I think that will be the perfect start for them ahead of course, that game.
It would be sad if Napoli, well, this is their last action. Well, not that it means anything, this Serie A match, but obviously they're using it as preparation for what's to come in the Europa League. But it could very well be the last match that means anything for them all season with no involvement in the Coppa Italia. And if they don't win by multiple goals against Arsenal next week, well, in actual fact, they need to score 3. So if they don't score 3 at least across 90 or 120 minutes, their season will effectively be over in mid-April, and that's not an ideal outcome, but that is where we're at the moment. The match of the round in Italy, no doubt, it's the free-falling Milan against Lazio at the San Siro. I think maybe a fortnight ago, 3 weeks ago, we were sitting here saying Milan could potentially catch Napoli for second, and that's not because Napoli... I still feel Napoli are a better side than Milan, but Napoli with nothing to play for, and Milan just firing on all
they were a
fronts.
raging bull at that stage. They were just picking up wins left, right, and centre. I think they went on about 6-7 wins in a row, or something like that, to that effect anyway.
And what's happened since then?
Wow. Boom, boom.
No win in 4, and 1 point out of a possible 12. Lost to Juve at the last weekend.
Controversially.
That draw to Udinese and Sampdoria, and Inter defeats.
It's those teams in and around the top 4, those that are still half competing for a spot in the Champions League or UEFA League.
Well, that's who Lazio struggled against this season as well.
So expect another dire affair. And if you recall back to the match that the two played against one another, the reverse fixture earlier on, it was a 92nd minute goal by Lazio that equalised the proceedings and made it all square. So I'm thinking another one, something similar to occur in this one, to be honest.
A very intriguing match. I don't think there'll be too much action, to be honest, but... It could be a goal either way that determines the tie. John's come through and said, good night, guys. Another great show. May the best teams win. Absolutely. Good luck to your Liverpool, and good night and goodbye to you, John, as well. We'll see you very, very soon indeed. But, a big game, Milan and Lazio at the San Siro. Of course, no Donnarumma again. He's still out with that injury. Paqueta's out for the season. So it's not the strongest Milan outfit. And they're up against the Lazio side, though, who haven't had any luck whatsoever against the big 4 or 5 in the competition. So... on that, I'd be tipping Milan, but this isn't a Milan side that has been...
You can't do it with any confidence at all.
Oh, no confidence whatsoever. I would not be tipping Milan confidently to win this match. And what that does is it opens the door for their fierce rivals Inter, who, despite woeful form of their own, Rick, in recent weeks, they're now 5 points clear of Milan in third. A win this weekend... with 6 rounds to spare and a minimum 5-point lead depending on the Milan result, I would say that they've secured their return to the Champions League. It's Inter away to Frosinone. When we talk of danger games, though, this is it. This is it right here. And Inter, despite, I suppose, a positive win a couple of weeks ago, 4-0 over Genoa, they were held 0-0 again to Atalanta. They've had so many 0-0s this season and 1-0 defeats. But Inter Milan away to Frosinone, who have won their last 2 games.
And they beat Fiorentina last week, conceding Stefano Pioli to the sidelines and getting the sack.
Dangerous game here for Inter.
Oh, absolutely. We know Frosinone are in that battle as well. You know, they're not quite relegated, but they're not quite out of the zone. So they're fighting tooth and nail to try and survive here. And, well, they have a chance, but they need to get this result as well to really give themselves any hope of staying up in Italy's top flight.
It ends all square, this one, for me.
It's got something along those lines.
It ends all square.
1-1 is what I'm seeing in this one.
This one ends all square. Inter, though, if they win, that's almost Champions League football secure. They'll be up to 60 points from 32 fixtures, 6 to play. But I think this will end all square, opening the door to Milan, to Atalanta, to Roma, and to Lazio, Torino, these teams who are still vying for Champions League football. For a few of those clubs, Atalanta host Empoli. Big test, this one. Atalanta held by Inter last weekend. Atalanta in really, really good form. But an Empoli side who are obviously trying to stay up in Serie A and have been indifferent of late, but have taken it right up to Napoli and Juventus particularly.
Jekyll and Hyde the last 6 or 7 match days. That's the problem with Empoli. So it's hard to get a read on where they're at.
Yes, they beat Napoli.
They beat Napoli, yeah, but they lost to Juventus at the same time, and they were a spirited outfit in that game. So I know we keep on harping back to it, or at least I do, but Empoli do have this chance here all of a sudden to maybe get another result, but Atalanta have got so much to play for and win here. We know what Milan and Lazio, we've just been discussing them a few moments ago. They have a chance to get into fourth and lock that space in.
They could be there. They could be in the top four. As could Roma. Roma, well, they got a win last weekend away to Sampdoria, which I did not predict, but this result has put them right back in the mix. And they take on the red-hot Udinese, though this will be tough. Roma up against Udinese. Udinese, a side who are still relegation threatened, but probably for me in the best form of the bottom few. Well, a few of them are in good touch. Spal, certainly Bologna.
They've all woken up, haven't they?
But Udinese, under Tudor, playing some really nice football, and they take on, well, you talk Jekyll and Hyde, this is number one for it in Europe. A Roma team who were defeated by Udinese earlier on in the season at the Friuli 1-0, but a Roma side who have been dominant against Udinese prior to that. I actually remember covering that game, the 1-0. Roma had won, it was 8 straight in the lead up to that match against Udinese. I think Roma will respond here, but this will certainly be tough for Claudio Ranieri and his men. Keep in mind as well, there's been big news off the field for Roma this week. Qatar Sports Investments, the owners of Paris Saint-Germain, looking to make a play here. How big is the Champions League in terms of what that could potentially hold for future investment?
It could affect them a little bit, but it could also give them a little bit of an assurance going forward. So they could obviously link up, of course, with the French capital club. They'll have a little bit more money to spend on players, and we know what the QSI has actually done with PSG and the amount of money they've invested there. So it's going to be an interesting relationship over the next few years to see whether, firstly, James Pallotta does sell, the Roma president, and if he does sell to QSI, and then what QSI do and how much they pump into, of course, this team, the Giallorossi.
Big match. I am predicting that Roma will win. So, well, if Milan and Inter drop points, that will get all the more tighter in the race for the top four. Other matches this weekend, Torino and Cagliari. Torino still in the running for the top four as well, quite incredibly. Fiorentina and Bologna. Fiorentina, of course, under Vincenzo Montella for the first time in his second coming there in Florence. Sampdoria and Genoa, fierce rivalry, that one.
The Derby della Lanterna.
Lanterna, that's right. So a big one there. Sampdoria, Genoa they've assured themselves of a spot in the top flight, I feel, just for next season, but Sampdoria looking to still maybe play in the Europa League. Sassuolo, Parma, and the final match of the round is that Atalanta clash against Empoli. So a big weekend of action to come, and of course, as the season draws to a close, Juventus in the box seat, 1 point away from another Scudetto. They win it, it will be their 8th straight. No other team in the history of top 5 competitions, Serie A, Ligue 1, La Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League, have ever won 8 straight. It's an incredible achievement for this side who only, 13 years ago were relegated to Serie B to have won 8 straight championships. It will happen. It will happen this weekend, I believe, in style. You believe due to a point, but an incredible achievement for Juventus. But again, and close the Italian segment on this, Rick, what do they need to do in this, I suppose, 4-year period with Ronaldo, but particularly in the next season or two, to ultimately be successful now, given their domestic dominance?
Well, there's only one thing and one thing only. They need to win a Champions League. It's no ifs, no buts, no maybes. Yes, the streak will probably continue on. How many more seasons can they keep on going, winning the Scudetto? But I don't think it's going to be enough. That 23-year hiatus from not lifting up that trophy, getting so close on so many occasions and just not being able to do it in the final match of the season, usually late May, early June, that's the one thing that all Bianconetti supporters are wanting to see.
Half our staff here at FNR weren't even born in 96, Rick.
No, I know. There weren't many of us.
We were, but...
We were.
We
were watching it back then.
We were watching it, but Juventus, 20-point leaders in Italy, will win the Scudetto this weekend away to Spal. Can they go all the way in Madrid? 1-1 with Ajax, of course, in that first leg of the Champions League. The return next week, and then City or Tottenham, if they can get through, to come before a potential final at the Metropolitano there. Speaking of that beautiful stadium, Atletico Madrid are in action, of course, this weekend in La Liga, as are the 20 Spanish sides. And, well, unfortunately, not too much to play for anywhere but the top 4 race. Well, relegation, I suppose, similar to Italy. But the league title is almost done and dusted. And that's because Atletico Madrid did lose last weekend to Barcelona 2-0. And while that was a big talking point, the biggest talking point of them all has come from Atletico Madrid, and it's come from an incident from that match. And you mentioned
naughty.
You mentioned it in your news headlines, but Diego Costa has picked up an 8-game suspension. Now, from what I'm reading, 4 matches for the insults to the referee, and then 4 matches for physically handling the referee. And by physically handling, I don't think it was much more than this. But
No.
he touched the referee. So 4 and 4, I believe, equals 8, Rick.
Well done.
He will miss 8 matches. Ran some numbers last night. He's going to have missed more matches suspended than goals scored in La Liga for Atletico Madrid in his return to the club. Obviously, he was there previously before a move elsewhere. It hasn't worked. Costa, he was linked to a move to China, of course, earlier on in the campaign. And, well, will we see him play for Atletico Madrid ever again?
My gut says no. My gut says that match against, obviously, Barcelona was it and the bit for him. He just has not really responded at all under Diego Simeone's tutelage. Yeah, he's had some nice patches, but unfortunately he's had that foot injury as well that kicked him out a few times this season. He just hasn't worked with, in particular, Antoine Griezmann up top. I think it might be time for the Rojiblancos to cut their losses and move him on. You've still got Alvaro Morata. We know that they've been linked to a few other players as a central striker as well. I feel it might be time now for the Spain international to know himself that it's time to move on because the game has gone past him.
A wonderful player, but it hasn't been at his best, no doubt about it. And that has not worked well for Atletico Madrid, who, while they've struggled for depth in recent seasons, the quality has been there, but any injuries, any suspensions has just not helped their cause at all. And Atleti in action this week in a pretty interesting match, though. Against Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo still in that relegation mix, but have had some good form of late since the return of a couple of key figures. And
there's only one, really.
Well,
It's one.
Yes, there is one who's returned, Iago Aspas, but that partnership up top,
of course,
you've just got 2 players back to their best.
Of course.
And a team back to their best.
Absolutely. And that we didn't really think that Celta Vigo would be towards the bottom end of the table, or at least as low as they have been, in that 18th spot, possibly being relegated come season's end. Now that they're getting back from that 3.5-month layoff with that leg injury, it's another Celta Vigo team. It really is. It's Jekyll and Hyde. I know we've used it a few times today on afternoons, but it really has that feel about it with Iago Aspas in the team and now out of the team.
Atleti haven't been defeated too many times this season, but one of their 5 defeats in the league was actually in the reverse here. Celta taking care of them 2-0, and that's when they were actually at their best, playing some really good football, Celta Vigo. But yeah, for Atleti here, an opportunity to take care of that, avenge that defeat. But is holding off Real Madrid worth fighting for? Well, it's something. And currently 2-point lead over Zidane's side. But Atleti here, they come in with, maybe players coming to the end of their time, and it's one of, I believe, 4 games at home for the remainder of the season. We know that Diego Godin will leave in the summer. Lucas Hernandez probably won't play again. Costa could leave. He clearly won't play. Saul, who's strongly linked to Man City, could be on the way out. So it is maybe the end of an era here. Really. Obviously, Diego Simeone is still linked away, not next season, but eventually. So a big off-season to come, a big summer for Atletico Madrid. And similarly to Napoli in Italy, they too may have missed their boat. Well, not for the league title, because they got that a few seasons back, but maybe that Champions League tilt. They got so close with this group of players. Well, the core group of players anyway, and Simeone, maybe those 2 defeats to Real Madrid was as close as they'll ever get this time around. But they are in action there. They need to win to keep their slim La Liga hopes alive, but Barcelona can really put their foot down. They take on Huesca away from home. You remember this match earlier on in the season?
I do a little bit, very well.
8-2.
Yes.
At the Nou Camp. Huesca stunned them early, but then it was Barca, the onslaught. 8-2, and I feel with Barcelona with one eye on the Nou Camp for next week against United in the return, and defending that 1-0 lead away from home, they won't be too phased. I think they'll take care of Huesca here professionally. I think we'll see a couple of changes.
Messi won't play in my eyes.
You don't think so?
No, I think what they'll do is they'll end up playing Malcolm on the right. Sure, he was a little bit of a concern for them, but I think that's what they'll do. They'll rest Messi. They won't have to make him travel too far, and they'll put in Malcolm in particular. Maybe even an Ousmane Dembele ahead of Philippe Coutinho.
But, there still are players here who are playing for position. Keep in mind, Champions League finals, potentially Champions League semi-finals. These players will still want to be in the mix to be considered for a spot. We saw obviously Coutinho played against United and other players. I still feel there are spots up for grabs.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
An opportunity here in La Liga against the likes of Huesca and other teams to come. get some goal-scoring form about you, and maybe find yourself in an 11 in a bigger match in the Champions League. So really, really excited for that. There's also, obviously, Real Madrid in action this weekend. They're away to Leganés.
A little bit of a derby.
Well, a bit of a derby, but again, another look for Zidane at some of his players. So again, who stays, who goes? We discussed earlier reports this week saying that Karim Benzema will all but certainly stay at the club after his resurgence and his return to form. Who else is playing for their futures? We discussed the midfield trio there of Modric, Kroos, Casemiro with the Pogba links. Defensively, Varane could be nearing an end.
That's the one, isn't it? Marcelo, you probably say
Marcelo,
now is more likely to stay than... Wow. Too many.
Marcelo likely to stay, likely to go. We have no idea. But there are so many question marks over this Real Madrid squad that, again, a nice little match here against Leganés. They'll play Champions League football next season, Real. We know that. But an opportunity for Zidane to finalise his squad ahead of the new campaign.
He will have a chance, and like you've just said, he sort of gets a little bit of a glimpse into some of the formations, some of the tactics, and some things that are sort of going to be going on over the next few match days to sort things out.
Other matches this weekend. Rick, talk to me about the top four race. Getafe, Valladolid, they're fourth, Getafe. Mm-hmm. Sevilla, Betis, a huge match. Valencia, Levante. Alaves, Espanyol. Bilbao, Vallecano. There's so much to play for there for Champions League football next season.
And not every one of those teams is guaranteed to actually get a win this week.
Not at all.
And that's the surprising thing at all. Valladolid, well, we know that they've sort of fallen off their perch. They've really they've started off very nicely, but then unfortunately they just have not been able to capitalise on that form, and so they've dropped off. So you'd say Getafe should be the favourites to win that. And of course, when you follow that up with a 1-0 win over a rival in Bilbao, who is in the mix as well there, you'd have to put that Madrid team one as the favourite to go through to the Champions League. Seville, as you touched on, Betis, this is a rivalry. This is the Seville derby.
That's right.
This is the Basque derby, and this one here, they will fight hammer and tongue, tooth and nail, whatever the sayings are, to actually
you
get
got them right. You got them
Thank
right.
you.
You got them right.
Thank you. They will fight hammer and tongue, tooth and nail, to actually get the results here. So this one here, Betis could actually be playing for something, and this is, of course, crosstown rivalry bragging rights. This is it.
Big game. The other game, Sociedad Eibar and Girona up against Villarreal. Villarreal 18th. I don't want to see that proud club be relegated, but on the verge of Europa League exit and on the verge of being relegated because there are teams playing some good football around them, and Valladolid, Celta Vigo, Levante, Girona, big match this one. Incredibly for Girona in this match, if they lose, they're sucked back into that.
That's the other interesting element of it all, because Villarreal will go to 33 and they would then obviously move to 34.
So, start of the season, Rick, am I right in saying that you certainly tipped Atleti to win the title?
I did.
You did?
I did.
I recall that. I recall that very well. And now for the top four. Getafe, Sevilla, Valencia, Alaves, Bilbao. Who you got?
I'm still sticking with Bilbao. I'm not going to change that whatsoever, considering the run that they've gone on. Gary Garitano has really lifted...
From 8th, Rick.
Yeah, from 8th. From 8th. I think they can do it. I think some of the other teams might falter. Seville, Jekyll and Hyde. Valencia, I think, have got one eye now in the Europa League.
The fairy tale of Getafe, they're in 4th.
Fairy tale of Getafe is still going very, very nice. But I think it's going to be Athletic Bilbao that gets that final spot.
All right, I'm going to stick with Valencia. Obviously, Valencia will go through to the semi-finals, very likely, of the Europa League, and I feel they could finish in the top 4 anyway in Spain. But Barcelona will be crowned the La Liga champions. 11 points, 7 rounds to play.
Couple of rounds.
4 rounds max, and I think they'll wrap it up. But, of course, United still into the... Well, they've got the United to come in the quarters and then what's to come in the semis. Looking forward to that. Huesca likely to be relegated down the bottom end. Vallecano, Villarreal, Valladolid, Celta, Levante and more. That's the Spanish La Liga done. Ligue 1 and Bundesliga, Rick, to wrap up. About a tick under 20 minutes to go here on the program.
Let's go to Ligue 1.
Oh, well, I just clicked Bundesliga, but let's go to Ligue 1. Well, yeah, let's go there, because Bundesliga, the title race is a nice
still on there.
A nice way to end. Let's go to Ligue 1. I want to open with the same question I asked regarding Juventus for Paris Saint-Germain. Coupe de France finalists this season, Coupe de la Ligue quarter-finalists and out. Failure in the Champions League again, and a Ligue 1 title by, well, potentially another record margin. They take on Lille away from home this weekend, 1v2 to win the title. They win the title. Great, well done.
Congratulations.
What is required for this Paris Saint-Germain side to be successful? And when can we expect it before, well, maybe this whole project is a failure?
I think Danny Alves has summed it up quite nicely in the last, say, 24, 48 hours. He's actually come out and he's given an interview and he's saying that PSG actually didn't have the warlike mentality to actually get past Manchester United in the round of 16 match. I think that's the missing element for the Parisians at the moment. Is, yeah, they're in cruise control mode. Yes, we know how good they are. Yes, we know the world-class players they have that can turn it on at any moment's time. But they just lack that mental edge in the crunch games to get through.
Maybe the case, but they haven't had they haven't had the same squads since the investment came in. So is it
They've always chased the play. They've always chased the next hot thing.
They've always chased the play. So it feels that it's something beyond just the group of players. It feels, whereas where we have highlighted this season multiple issues within the squad. Remember the stats earlier on this season between Mbappe, Cavani, and Neymar.
That's right.
There were matches where one pass was played from Mbappe and Neymar to Cavani. Now, that could be because of a lack of synergy. That could be because there's a lack of disharmony. Who knows? But they have had their issues on the pitch. But off the pitch, they just haven't been able to get things right.
No, and that's been the big issue for me in my eyes.
The investments, part of this, they've just spent 40 million on not the right player to bring in. They brought in an aging Gianluigi Buffon. Was that the right move at the expense of Kevin Trapp and Adriano, who obviously hasn't played as much this season? Questionable decisions such as these. And now PSG, I feel, it's next season Champions League win or bust, and that could be that. It really could. What is there? What else is there to gain if they're going to continually win a treble, a double in domestically?
Whatever, yeah.
If that's not enough, and we've seen top coaches lose their jobs after winning nothing but everything domestically. What else is there to do? There isn't a man out there who can come in as win the top job as coach and fix this.
So does that mean you have to lower your expectation if you're a PSG supporter or a PSG investor in the case of QSI?
I think change your approach. Build longer term. Invest longer term. Invest in Joao Felix, the Benfica young gun who's coming through, but knowing that he'll become a world beater in maybe 2 or 3 seasons. Not that he's Neymar who's ready to win now.
No,
I think you put more pressure on yourself. Take a step back. Take 10 steps
forward. Start to put the wheels in motion to go forward and see if you can actually get that result. In that sense, obviously, keep Mbappe, get Felix. You've got Neymar, he's not going anywhere, but maybe start to obviously, Timmy Weah comes back from Celtic, Christophe Nkunku is still very young.
Okay.
So there are still a few nice little elements. Obviously, we've talked about defensively what they can do. They have Alphonso Areola at the moment who's come through, so maybe that's the way you have to do it.
Just on that point you raised, Mbappe, he's going nowhere. Is he?
Well, my gut has always said he's going to go to Real Madrid at some stage.
Okay.
That's been my gut. Whether the war chest is opened, of course, by Florentino Perez, that's a wait-and-see approach. But my gut is he will go, whether it be this season, next season, or the one after, he will make a move to Madrid.
It's very unlikely that Kylian Mbappe will go to Real Madrid if Real Madrid sign Hazard, Mane, Pogba, two of those players. How could they afford them?
No, of course. So there's going to be a few elements that will have to go in his favour in order for that to ultimately occur.
Okay. Noted. Neymar
stays. Neymar's not going anywhere.
And explain for one final time why, Rick.
That metatarsal injury, you can't cop 2 of the same injuries, and anybody who is actually going to do some serious due diligence on him will basically say, no, we can't take this player. He's medically unfit for us.
Understood. PSG are away to Lille. Do they win the title this weekend against the fairy tale of this season? Lille have been remarkable. On the verge of relegation last season. This season will finish second. Will play Champions League football next season. Truly a remarkable outcome, but I think a fitting way for PSG to actually win the Ligue 1 title. Do it on your own terms against the second best team clearly in the competition.
And that's why I have more confidence in PSG winning this match and winning the title than I did with Juventus winning it, of course, against Spal. So
understood.
I feel here, PSG, it won't be one of those big blowout wins that we've seen over the last few months. The 5-0, for instance, the 4-0. I won't think it's those results, but I think a solid 2-0 here just to really get them over the line.
Okay. Yeah, I'm anticipating PSG will win. Obviously, Neymar's still out with that injury. The Copa America at risk for him.
He'll be back for it. He's the captain.
He will be, but it's similar to the World Cup with last season. Yeah. He missed the second half of the season for PSG, came into the World Cup underdone, and Brazil underperformed and failed to fire. But a different time around with Brazil, some emerging young superstars of football that have come through the ranks, and I'm sure they'll be back in no time whatsoever. But as for Ligue 1, the race for the top four, or the top three rather, continues. Nantes and Lyon. This is a big game because Lyon, failure to win again, opens the door one final time to Saint-Etienne, Marseille, Reims and Nice, but particularly Saint-Etienne, who are only 6 points behind. It's falling apart at Lyon at the moment. We know last week they lost 1-3 at home to Dijon. Lyon now with this opportunity to respond against a Nantes team with not much to play for and also out of form. Win here, Champions League football could be secure, or at least a playoff spot for next season.
However, you're saying it's falling or starting to fall at Lyon. It's fallen well and truly off at Nantes. The Canaries they've lost their last three. I think they've only had one win in their last five off the top of my head.
Yes.
They really cannot get themselves together at all to save themselves. And you know what? They lose here. Monaco. Remember our friends Monaco?
I remember them, Monaco, yeah.
Where they were pretty much bottom of the table? They can go above them.
They can.
And that says a lot of
about
how
where Nantes are at.
Exactly.
Well, Nantes have had a very difficult season. We do know that. But yes, you are right. Both sides, Nantes and Lyon, not playing to the best of their ability at this point. So Lyon should win, but we know the issues that we had last week with Lyon. The fans were all laying the Dijon players, and they were passing around the ball. They're away from home here, so maybe away from their home fans and maybe an opportunity to get a crucial win. But for Saint-Etienne, Marseille, Reims and Nice, door slightly open with 7 rounds to play. Saint-Etienne will host Bordeaux. Marseille up against Nîmes, who have been some good touch. Monaco will host Reims, who are in 6th, of course. And Rennes, Nice, a nice match as well. Look, I think it will finish as it is. PSG, Lille, Lyon.
Yep.
Lyon will have to go into the qualification place for Champions League football for next season and deal with that. But yeah, Lille is the story for me of the French Ligue 1 season. Really, really impressive. Yep. The other matches in France this weekend, Montpellier will host Toulouse and Caen will play host to Angers. So that will be that. Dijon and Amiens, the final one as well, which is a relegation battle because
they're 7 points behind one another, but they're one position on
Dijon
the table.
lose and
game over.
But they did beat Lyon last week away from home. They're at home here against Amiens. So, well, this is their final hope. They need to win to ensure that they narrow the gap ever so slightly. We'll leave Ligue 1 there, Rick. Been a good season of Ligue 1. PSG will run away with it. Lille will finish second. Looking forward to seeing how the season plays out.
And not as much as the Farmers League as many people have pointed out. There's plenty going on from second all the way down to 20th.
Bundesliga to close out the program. The race for the title is still alive. It's still well and truly alive. Bayern Munich and Dortmund, 1 point, 6 games to play, but it does not feel like that.
Nope.
It's 1 point with goal difference, which equates to 2, but it's Bayern Munich who are playing the best football we've seen from any club in Germany this season against a Dortmund side whose results they've stabilised slightly up until that 5-0 loss in the Klassiker last week, but it's a Dortmund side who are nowhere near the Dortmund that we saw earlier on in the campaign. An amazing story for Dortmund this season. Some players that have really emerged, some players that have really made their name at both European level and domestically in Germany, but in the end, it just feels, this was the other one we were split, I was Dortmund, you were Munich, it just feels like Munich will cruise to the title. They're obviously in the German Cup final, the German Cup semi-finals rather as well, but
Werder Bremen.
It feels they'll do the domestic double here. They're playing at a level which I'm stunned that this Bayern Munich team were eliminated by a very good Liverpool side in the UEFA Champions League.
I think we're all stunned, but if we have to give a comment on Bayern Munich, new coach, new system, they've settled in now, and now we are starting to see the results, the final product, the finishing touches on understanding how Niko Kovac wants to play, and look at the results now. And, you look at what happened last week. 5-0 against the team that's second place. How often does that happen in any competition?
Well, they did it last year where they beat them 6-0, but no, 5-0. It was a dominant display, and they are the champions in waiting. They're going to win a 7th straight title. They are going to do it, Bayern Munich. The run home is favourable, actually, for both sides, but again, Dortmund's recent wins have, I think, 3 of their last 4 wins have come about as a result of 90th minute goals. 2 in the Wolfsburg clash recently, where Paco scored a double after the 90th minute. So it's a Dortmund side that are just getting over the line, and I think last week was their last hope. It was the last straw for Dortmund. Defeat Munich, keep yourself alive, but now no. 1 point behind, but feels like it's 10.
Yep, agreed.
Really, really does. Other key matches to come this weekend. Well, you just feel the top four now, Leipzig and Eintracht Frankfurt with the two giants, that's how it will finish. Leipzig and Frankfurt, the two form sides of the competition. And this weekend, it's Leipzig against Wolfsburg, 3rd v 6th, big match indeed. And Frankfurt will take on Augsburg. These two sides win
new
this
coach as well.
Augsburg new coach, yeah, maybe a danger game. But with what's beneath them in terms of the race for Champions League football in Mönchengladbach, Wolfsburg, the form isn't there to suggest for me that Leipzig and Frankfurt will lose their place in Europe for next season.
Not at this stage for me either. I mean, we know how strong Leipzig have been all season long, especially at home. So I think they'll take that form and they'll still keep it going against Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg hit and miss recently. Sure, that 5-0, was it 5 or 6-0 against Bayern Munich may have scared them off a little bit and brought them back a little bit to the
6-0.
pack because they were in that red-hot form leading up to it and they really were surging up the table. But I feel Leipzig, maybe a 2-1 type result here for me. And of course, Eintracht Frankfurt, well, how much of a confidence stinter was that loss to Benfica? How much confidence have they lost against, well, I have to say, the Portuguese version of the Eagles. So that one, there's going to be another interesting game there for me. But you would think Frankfurt should just do enough. Maybe a 1-0 just to sneak through and move on.
You do realise that was their first defeat in 2019.
No, I do.
For Frankfurt.
I do.
Their form is still great.
Oh, yeah.
And they went to a Benfica side who have wonderful home form and wonderful pedigree in the Europa League. So I'm not surprised that they went down. I think they'll be disappointed to concede 4 goals. They hadn't conceded as many goals since, they lost 3-0 late December to Bayern Munich. That was in the league. But they haven't conceded that many goals in any game for the entirety of the campaign. So, in fact, you have to go back a long way. That the last time they conceded more than that. Well, of course, it was that's what I was checking the date of. But that was that 5-0 Super Cup against Bayern Munich.
So we're talking August.
That's right. We are talking August. That's right. So it was a disappointing display defensively by Frankfurt, but they've got the attacking quality. They'll respond. They'll beat Augsburg this weekend. So I feel that it will be Munich, Dortmund, Leipzig and Frankfurt, who will represent Germany in the UEFA Champions League for next season. Mönchengladbach and Wolfsburg currently occupy the top 6, which will mean a return to Europe. Mönchengladbach, though, they're completely out of form. But they have a winnable game this weekend against Hannover. Changes with the manager.
Marco Rose finally announced the Salzburg coach who will be going across there to Hecking. His contract does end, of course, at the end of the season. Won't be renewed. Thorgan Hazard's been the big talking point over the last few weeks. Will he stay? Will he go? Well, no, he's not staying whatsoever. He's going to be walking out the door come July 1 when the transfer window will more or less start to open. So, where are Gladbach going to be over the next few weeks and months? We know the futures of some of these players. We know what's going to happen. Let's wait and see what does ultimately happen and how they can somehow salvage this season. Because it is a season in free fall.
It absolutely is.
They were second.
They were second and playing great football. Now they're hanging on for a top 6 finish. With Hoffenheim obviously breathing down their necks, they take on Hertha Berlin. Bremen host Freiburg. Leverkusen are away to Stuttgart, and that's going to be that for the weekend. With, of course, Munich and Dortmund and their 2 fixtures, which we didn't touch on. For me, it doesn't matter. Munich are going to win their final 6 matches. This weekend they're away to Dusseldorf. Dortmund take on Mainz. They can do as they please, but for me, Munich will win the 6 from 6 to close out the campaign. They do have a tricky test with the match against Frankfurt, but Dortmund still have to go to Mönchengladbach. They take on Frankfurt, I believe, as well. So a couple of tough matches. And down the bottom end of the table, Hannover and Nuremberg, very likely to be relegated. Hannover do take on Mönchengladbach this weekend. Nuremberg will meet Schalke, and Stuttgart, who are currently in the relegation playoff spot, are in that match against Leverkusen. So a very, very long German Bundesliga season will near its end, 6 rounds to play. Cologne and Hamburg, the 2 teams that went down from last season, I think they're currently 1st and 3rd. They're in the box seat to go back up next season. So it'll be good to see a couple of those clubs, particularly Hamburg, who have played for the first time in their history this season.
The clock tower may start to ring again and start to work.
It may. A big season ahead for Dortmund and for Munich, though, overall. Just a word, a successful campaign or an unsuccessful campaign for me for German football?
For German football, I think you have to say it's a successful campaign, but
we're gonna disagree.
We are. That's the way we always like to do it. But I think
unsuccessful for me.
You say unsuccessful. I say for Bayern Munich, it's a success. New coach, new system, new integration, new whole approach. So success for me. Dortmund, unfortunately, it started off so well and then just fell away.
Yeah, I think the competition within has been great, but for German football, we look at the national team.
Well, if you factor in that sort of stuff, then yeah.
The question was German football,
Yes,
Rick.
I
But
know.
even these clubs in Europe, Europa League, Champions League, where are the German clubs? And it's the lowest point for German football. Well, certainly in my lifetime.
They've still got
across
one
the
in
board.
Europe.
They do, but
It's not the best
for
one.
long.
Not the best
It doesn't
one.
matter. They do have one. And a couple of other nations also have one, but it's certainly a very strange time for German football, both at national team level and domestic level. But Munich, you were right. You'll get that one. I am going to get the City tip right, though, because City will win the Premier League, and then
See what happens.
We'll see the Champions League and Europa League tips and how they get on. But Rick, we're done.
We
That's
are.
our 90-minute special on Facebook Live done. A massive thank you, of course, to all of our viewers and all of the support we've received over the last... This is the 190th show, Rick. Prior to that, of course, our campaign in the World Cup and everything else that took place. It's been an amazing journey here at FNR Football Nation. And, of course, a massive thank you to our sponsors. Rick, Julius Meinl, first and foremost, has
Great
been amazing.
coffee.
But no, in all seriousness, DKP & Co. Chartered Accountants,
Lanco Group,
your business partner for engineering solutions.
Northern
Northern
Nissan.
Motor Group, of course, Vivo, who have come on recently, and all of our other support we've received. It's been very, very much appreciated. But, of course, to all the fans out there who have enjoyed the show and supported us daily, yes, absolutely many, many thanks to you. And, of course, all our production team and support staff here who have helped us out and made us look very good every day. We'll still, obviously, the platform will still be keeping you up to date with all the latest news, views, and analysis from the world of football and Australian football nightly from 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, where the crew will be talking all things that. But we're done. We're signing off for the last time. So for now, Rick, from myself, Adriano Del Monte, and my co-host Rick D'Andrea, this has been the 190th and final edition of Afternoons here on FNR Football Nation Radio, your voice of football in Australia and right around the world. Until next time, whenever that is, goodbye for now. Salute.
Cheers.